Vic Mullen, grumpy old Scotsman, how you all doing? So, we're talking about Labour, oh God. It's like literally anything Labour does publicly instantly turns to a big steaming pile of excrement. Anything Keir Starmer touches, big steaming pile of excrement. Anything Keir Starmer talks about turns into a big steaming pile of excrement. It's like he's got the reverse Midas touch. You all know the story of King Midas. Anything that King Midas touched turned to gold. Well, anything that Keir Starmer talks about or touches turns to a big steaming pile of excrement. So, oh boy. What I'm talking about here has actually kind of been ongoing since 2023. And for people outside of the United Kingdom that don't even have a clue that this is actually going on, there is the Chinagate scandal. That's now what it's being called here in the UK. Now, all of this stemmed from 2023. And basically what happened was, in fact, you know what? There's a Reuters article that I was skimming to get the names. I'm just going to show you the Reuters article because the Reuters article actually gives a pretty decent rundown of how this actually came to pass. So let's go into window capture here and we'll go into that one. How's the lineup doing? Lineup's doing okay. Now, I don't generally like quoting Reuters, but the thing about Reuters is, yes, they're a little bit left-leaning, but when they do a rundown, like a rundown of what happened on the run-up to a current story, they do it in a neutral manner, because I was looking at the Guardian's take on this that they wrote up yesterday, and it was like, are you trying to cover up for Keir Starmer here, Guardian? Are you? Reuters is a little bit more neutral, or Reuters, depending how you want to pronounce it. They're a little bit more neutral on the rundown of the story. So this is how it goes. What's the UK Chinese spying case? Two men, Christopher Cash, 30, a former director of the China research group think tank, and Christopher Barry, 33, who worked as a researcher for a senior lawmaker, were arrested by British police in March 2023 on suspicion of spying for China. In April 2024, the men were charged with an offence under the 1911, this was on the run-up to the First World War, 1911 Official Secrets Act of passing politically sensitive information to a Chinese intelligence agent known as, quote, Alex, unquote. They denied any wrongdoing, and China says the case is entirely fabricated and a malicious slander. In an unexpected move, Britain's Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, dropped the charges on September the 15th, a month before the trial itself was due to start, saying the case no longer met the evidential threshold. Why did the Chinese spying case collapse? Since it was dropped, Prime Minister, oh, here we go, Commie Keir Starmer's at it again, folks. Prime Minister Commie Keir Starmer's Labour government has been accused by opponents of undermining the prosecution because it did not want to upset China, with which it was seeking better economic ties. Critics have particularly singled out Britain's National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell because of what they say are his ties to China. The UK government has rejected these accusations. Starmer said the decision to drop the case was made independently by the CPS and that ministers were disappointed it had not gone ahead. That's my alarm going off. It wasn't a phone call. I've got my alarm set for 11:30 to take my medicine. So I need to remember to take my medicine after I stop recording this video. We're disappointed it had not gone ahead. However, the CPS said prior to the prosecution being dropped that it had for many months asked the government for new evidence which it believed was necessary for the case to go ahead. And this is where the problem centres around. You see, the original case, the original prosecution was set up under the Conservative Party, right? At the very end of the Conservative Party run, we're looking at March 2023. when the original case was brought forward. By the time April 2024 came around, we were looking at the end of the current Tory party, or the previous Tory party, and the beginning of the new Labour Party. When Labour came into power, it was almost the same week Labour came into power. As it turns out, the Labour Party had essentially slowed down much of the processes to do with this particular case. Now, in the first couple of months of Labour coming into power, what was the first country, the first major country that Labour politicians visited as an economic goodwill tour? Name the first country that the Labour Party visited. Go on, name it. It's not the United States. No, it wasn't Europe either. That's right, it was China. It was China. While this case was ongoing, Labour knew the case was ongoing. Labour knew there was serious allegations going on with the China case spy trial at the end of Rishi Sunak's premiership. But what did Labour do? They ran to China to shake hands with Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping. Did I get his name right? Yeah, the overall great leader dude of China. They ran over there to shake his hands. They ran there, knowing that this case was still ongoing. Knowing that there was serious allegations going on with Chinese individuals and members of the Chinese government who could or may have been taking information about the British government, about the British military, about the British economy from two individuals who may or may not, allegedly, have been passing information over to these individuals who are then allegedly passing it on to the Chinese government. While all this was going on, Labour ran to China to shake hands. The big question that is now on everyone's lips is, number one, why did the government flatly refuse to hand over any more evidence to continue the trial's ongoing preparedness? Number two, exactly what does Keir Starmer know? Because Keir Starmer mentioned the Crown Prosecution Service. Now, for the people that don't know this outside of the UK, Keir Starmer's actually a lawyer. He's a lawyer by trade. He used to work at the Crown Prosecution Service. He used to be part of it. A long time ago, admittedly, and before this case came up. But he still knows people in the Crown Prosecution Service. So, what does Keir Starmer actually know? And number three, why is the UK government now saying that they want to drop this, that the whole thing is a false allegation? They want to drop the whole thing because it would cause economic harm to the United Kingdom. So what kind of deal was actually made by the Labour Party and Commie Keir Starmer when he went over to China to shake hands with Xi Jinping to make some kind of economic deal? And number four, what's the story with the Chinese super embassy being built in London? Did you know about this? Because I bet a lot of people don't. Let's bring this up. Because the plans are... let's have a look at this. The plans are for the current Chinese embassy in London to basically shut down. And what is essentially going to happen now, I'm looking at this, obviously hasn't been built yet. The plans are still going forward. But if I bring this in, accept all, we need to bring in... We are right here. So let's bring this in. Now see that area there? That whole area in red where there's a whole bunch of buildings currently sitting, that whole area is the proposed new site for the Chinese super embassy in London. And it basically sits it and it basically sits it in what is essentially the middle of London. The interesting thing is, the area where China wants to build this super embassy, the new embassy is going to be built on the old site of the original Royal Mint. Now, if anyone knows London and the layout of London, that particular plot of land has been semi-derelict for a while now. The government keep making plans to do something with it, but they keep kind of putting the plans off, because I think the white building right there, that one, now you're not seeing my mouse pointer, that white building that's basically in the middle, right? That white building is a listed building. It's a category listed building, which means technically it can't actually be knocked down. It can't be demolished because it's a listed, preserved building. However, if a foreign agency, like the Chinese government, decides to buy the land out from under the building, the land the building is sitting on, because it's going to be an embassy, that land, under diplomatic laws, turns into Chinese soil, which is the old thing about diplomatic embassies on other people's countries. It's why Julian Assange ran to the Ecuadorian diplomatic embassy, because that embassy sat on a plot of land that was bought by the country of Ecuador. The same thing's going to happen here. So it means China now owns the land, which means the category listing for that particular Royal Mint building, gone. They can knock the building down and completely replace it with their own super embassy. Why is it being called a super embassy? Because of the size of the plot and China's plan for that plot of land. It will become China's biggest embassy in any other country. Also, by building size and land size, it will become the singular largest embassy in the Western Hemisphere. And it's right slap bang in the middle of old London, sitting on an old plot of land where one of the old royal mints used to sit, literally within walking distance, easily, of the major centres of power of the British government. The major centres of power. And because it is essentially going to be foreign soil where the embassy is going to be built on, because it will be taken over by the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, whatever they want to do on that piece of land, they can do it. There are rumours. Again, it's only rumours, but there are rumours that there are plans for several floors going underground. Several floors going underground. What's going to go into those floors that have no windows? What's going to go into those floors that have very, very high security? There's rumours of torture chambers going around because, you know, it's the rumours that are going around. But this is the kind of thing that the Labour Party want to happen. They want that super embassy to be built. They want deeper, stronger economic ties with China. They want China to invest more money in the UK. They want China to do what China has done over in the United States, buying up all their farmland. Go and look that case up. It would amaze you how much US farmland China owns. Keir Starmer wants the same thing to happen here. He wants China to step in and essentially buy up big chunks of Britain. So while all this is going on, while this super embassy debate is ongoing, while Keir Starmer is over there shaking hands with Xi Jinping and trying to get closer economic ties to the country of China, the Chinagate spy case was, for all intents and purposes, deliberately halted and deliberately stopped by the current Labour government. Even though there was ample evidence to see that these two particular individuals may have allegedly been passing information on to an alleged Chinese spy who was then allegedly passing that info on to the Chinese government. The information and the evidence was so clear that the previous government, the Tory government under Rishi Sunak at that point in time, looked at the evidence and said, there's enough here for a case. There's more than enough here for a case. And they went ahead with the case. It wasn't until Labour came into power that, number one, all information to the prosecution was stopped, so they couldn't carry the case forward. Number two, the Labour Party immediately ran to China to shake hands with the Chinese government and Chinese leader to make it look as if everything was still okay. And number three, the plans for that super embassy is now being finalised. Now you know why I call the Labour Party the Communist Party. Well, really the actual Communist Party is the Green Party in the UK, but Labour's getting damn close to them. Damn close to them. Look what's happening here, folks. Look what's happening. Closer ties to China. Chinese super embassy in the heart of London, where the old Royal Mint used to be. In the heart of London. Rachel Reeves running over to China to shake hands with Chinese economic advisors, publicly saying that Chinese investments in British land would be a wonderful thing for the UK, even though we would lose control of over half of Britain's farmlands and China would just end up exporting all the food grown here to China, which is exactly what they're doing to the farmlands that they bought out from bankrupted farmers over in the United States. A lot of the farmland that the Chinese government bought in the United States, what grows there is shipped to China. It's not used for the United States populace, it's shipped to China. This is why Donald Trump is going off his nut about the amount of farmland that China's bought over in the United States, because he knows that food is not being used for the American people. It's being put into container ships and shipped to China. And the same thing will start happening here. While all this is going on, digital ID, a Chinese idea. Well, actually not. It's more of a communist idea. It just happens that the Chinese government was the first one to implement it on a national scale. Digital ID. And now more and more information is coming out about the digital ID system. Some members of parliament saying your money will be directly tied to digital ID. Tony Blair saying you will not be able to get a job if you don't have a digital ID. Tony Blair also saying background checks can be done via a digital ID. Hold on a minute, I thought the whole idea of this digital ID was to stop the bots. Now all of a sudden, your money's going to be tied to digital ID. You won't be able to get a job if you don't have a digital ID. You won't be able to apply for a job if you don't have a digital ID. And now they're saying, and I said this in the original video about digital IDs, they want 12-year-olds. 12-year-olds to have a digital ID. This has got Chinese Communist Party written all over it. And the spy case, Chinagate, as we're now calling it here in the UK, the spy case is a massive embarrassment for the Labour Party, who want to have closer and closer and closer ties to the Chinese Communist Party, because they're now looking at this Chinagate problem as a problem that they need to get rid of. They don't want to see this case go fully into court, because the second it goes into court, discovery is opened up, and all of the secrets, all of the backdoor dealings that the Labour Party have done to shut the investigation down will be opened up to the public eye. And that would cause the collapse of the current Labour Party. This is why they want it shut down. They want it shut down so they don't embarrass their new Chinese overlords, who want the super embassy built in the heart of London, who want Britain to have digital ID, probably ran by Chinese software. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. It really wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden the new digital ID system is ran by one of the major Chinese software companies. It would not surprise me one bit. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. So there we go, folks. It's like, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter what this Labour Party does. They are obviously doing it not for the benefit of Britain, not for the benefit of the British populace, not for the benefit of the people born here, the people who work here. They're doing it for the benefit of some other big global idea where Britain doesn't exist and everyone's communist. That's what it's starting to feel like. Honestly, that's what it's starting to feel like. It's like, how many of these utter screw-ups does the Labour Party have to do for the common populace to say, you know what, we're done with this? General strike. Because that's what needs to happen. The UK needs to have a general strike where the general populace just says, that's it, I've had enough. I'm not going to work anymore. General strike. Because general strikes are the only thing that can bring a Labour Party to its knees very, very fast. Because unlike the Tory party, the Labour Party are inherently terrified of strikes. Terrified of strikes. They would collapse immediately if all the major trade unions, all of them, from the teachers to the doctors to the nurses to the garbage bin workers, all of them decided general strike. Everyone. Within a week, the Labour Party would collapse and there'd be another general election. How much more of this are we going to have to take before a general strike happens? Because it's obvious that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are now working completely against the benefit of the UK populace. If they are willing to cover up even the slightest possibility of sensitive British government information being passed on to the Chinese government. In any other country, that would go to court. Any other Western country, that would immediately go to court, but not here. Not in communist Britain. Not under communist Keir Starmer. Doesn't happen. There needs to be a general strike to take this party down.